Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Bartosz playing in the Tier 8 German Standard Heavy Tank. I feel like you almost have to say that when you're talking about Tier 8 vehicles these days. It is the VK100-01P, so if you love your super heavy tanks, then yeah, you got a real treat coming today. So this vehicle has been in the game for a couple of years now. Can't believe that it's actually been a couple of years since this went into the line. Originally, to be able to get towards the mouse, I think this was way back in the day. You'd have to go through the Tiger, the Tiger 2, the VK4502, and then you'd reach the mouse. And then they decided to put in the VK4502A, which led into the VK4502P, which then led into the mouse because they put the E100 in and the E75, and they thought the Tiger and the Tiger 2 would lead into that tank. However, then, a couple of years ago in 2017, Wargaming decided, you know what, the VK2, is it the 4502A and the VK4502B just didn't really fit in to leading into the mouse, and so they put in two new vehicles. They put in the Moistion at Tier 9, and they put in the VK100-01. And as you might expect, as kind of mouse prototypes or things that allow you to wean into that super heavy play style, they really don't go very fast, these tanks. They're limited to 20 kilometers an hour forwards, but fortunately they can also go backwards at 15. And that's impressive. The tank can go 75% of the speed backwards as it can forwards. And that's incredibly useful in a vehicle like this because it's all about trying to keep the thick part of your tank towards your opponent. So when you can go backwards quickly, that stops those pesky medium tanks and light tanks from being able to flank you, right? Something that not a lot of people give credit for on the mouse. And when I play other heavy tanks, I think like the T110E5, for example, I just feel like I'm going backwards so slowly, and it was like that for my Super Conqueror Tech Tree Showcase just last Sunday. That yeah, when you can get forwards into position faster, but when you want to pull back and try and control the engagement and not allow the person to whiz around the corner to be able to get you, yeah, you start to struggle. Alright, so Bartosz has found himself in the perfect matchup here, right? Look, he's in +2 matchmaking, and more importantly, there aren't any vehicles on the enemy team that might be able to shoot him from base. Yeah, we're talking about those devilsome self-propelled guns, and if any of you have played your super heavy tanks, you'll know that they are an absolute pain to deal with. However, we're starting to see that this lack of self-propelled guns is not stopping high explosive rounds from hitting Bartosz's tank, as quite a few vehicles on the enemy team have been loading high explosive. Well, they're just starting to actually, for example, the Chi-Ri. And it looks like this SU-100 on the enemy team, look at the different kind of ammunition he's going through. He fired standard rounds. It bounced. He fired a premium round. It bounced. So I guess this player is literally just going 1, 2, 3. And when you think about it, that's a pretty good way of playing World of Tanks. I've never thought about that before. So his standard round bounced, his premium round bounced on his 2 key. Now he's pressed the 3 key, and wow, it's way more effective. Look at that, 216 damage. I'm actually very surprised about how effective those kind of rather large caliber high explosive guns are in World of Tanks, right? The 122mm high explosive gun on the SU-100 dealt 216 damage. That's not a small amount. We're talking about taking off 12-15% of Bartosz's hit points of a super heavy tank that has one of the highest hit points at Tier 8. There's 2 tiers higher than the SU-100, and those HE rounds are pretty devastating. However, it doesn't look like the enemy team has really figured that out, and so Bartosz is quite happy just sitting behind the wreck here and just sitting in front of the enemy team and laughing his butt off as he's already blocked 2,700 damage in the first 4 minutes of this battle. Although, even though he's kind of holding back, I'd say at least a third of the enemy team here, having dealt with the Lerva as well, and that was his equal numbered tank, it's not really doing his team any favors as they are now down by 5 vehicles with 2 kills to 7. So we have to see how that works out for them. Alright, luckily the SU-100... Oh, no, wait a minute, I tell a lie. Did the SU-100... No, the SU-100 hasn't put another round in yet. That was all that Lerva earlier on, right? 1 shot, but that's not a bad trade to be able to take out a Lerva for a single hit in return. You're definitely going to have quite high win ratio if you keep that up. But look, the SU-100 hasn't given up. It looks like the SU-100 actually hit towards the top of the vehicle there. You'd think that would be one of the thickest parts of the armor on this tank. Oh, I missed a shot there on that Chi-Ri, 452 hit points. But because of the nature of high explosive rounds, and when they splash, they then splash over the tank, and they kind of, I believe, seek out the weakest part of the armor that the splash would have occurred over, and then do some kind of a damage roll, which is why it's so amazing when you shoot high explosive rounds underneath the enemy tank, because they kind of like splash up into the weaker armor. Or if you're firing at glass cannon tanks, if you can shoot just underneath the turret ring so it splashes over the hull deck, then it can be absolutely devastating for the enemy vehicle. Alright, talk about devastating. Bartosz picking up a kill there on that T-29. I thought he was firing high explosive rounds because he shot the T-29 in the turret, but it just looks like he overmatched the tank. Now that brings me on to the next thing I want to highlight about this vehicle, and that is that there's two competitive ways that you can play the VK100-01P. You can play it with the 128mm caliber gun that you are seeing in this replay, which has 440 alpha damage, the same as the Defender, and it can truly pack a punch. Yeah, as we saw there, yeah, the VK3001P on the enemy team just got blown up in a single hit, and we can still see the remnants of the fire erupting from that tier 6 medium tank's turret. But this larger caliber gun is not the only way to play this vehicle. Yeah, the stock gun, you'll be happy to know if you were thinking about going towards this tank, is actually really nice. The 105mm caliber gun, while it only packs 320 alpha damage, it's still not bad at tier 8. There are quite a few tanks like the T-32 that can make do with that amount of alpha damage, and other vehicles like the Patriot that do very well with substantially less alpha damage. The Carnarvon as well must be mentioned in that comparison. But the 100mm, it's more accurate, it's got better aim time, it's got better turret traverse dispersion. I believe it also has better damage per minute than the vehicle, but it lacks that alpha punch, and more importantly, it lacks penetration as well. The standard round's 200mm compared to the 220 that you'll get on the big caliber gun. And this SU-100 really doesn't give up. He must have found himself in a position where he's behind multiple bushes here, as Bartosz is unable to see him, and the view range on this vehicle at 400 meters is better than some tier 10 light tanks. Yeah, weird that. You'd think that the super heavy vehicles, the ones that are meant to try and get forwards, would have the least view range, but no, I'm not gonna complain, especially if I was driving this vehicle, and I bet Bartosz wasn't in the situation. But anyway, he was complaining over that pesky SU-100. Look at that, another 2 high explosive rounds hitting the vehicle, and it's just chipping damage here. 3 high explosive rounds when we think about it. In fact, apart from the Lerva and a tiny little bit of damage he took from high explosive rounds from the Cheery, that's all he's really taken this game. And so that SU-100, fair enough, it can't be indirect in the form of an artillery, is still playing a role pesky enough to force Bartosz to pull back here to be able to try and engage across the map. He's going to be trying to shoot from west to east rather than trying to push from north to south. And whoa, that is a tank you want to take out quickly. Good night, sweetheart, as the KV-2 is removed from the game, and you do not want to leave a KV-2 on the loose. That is a surefire way to be able to ruin Bartosz's day there. The KV-2 with that big old derpy. Wow, look how low profile the LTG was there. And I think it surprised Bartosz because he totally fluffed that shot. But luckily, the Tiger 2, his trusty Tiger 2 behind Bartosz, does not miss the shot and finishes off the LTG. That pesky Cheery has now managed to get behind Bartosz as well. He's going to be giving him all sorts of hell. And Bartosz, that's actually a poor decision to shoot at the tracks there. When the KV-4 turned the turret, that would have been a much cleaner shell. But it looks like Bartosz is going to be following the rules of the SU-100, and he is going to be dabbing the 2 key now as well. Finds the lower plate of the KV-4, but the shell just goes higher and ricochets off the mid plate. That pesky bloomin' Soviet armor with that wonderful mid plate for ricocheting. You have to hit either the middle of the upper plate or the lower plate flush, and there you go, 464 damage, and the KV-4 returns fire but unable to go through this super thick German armor. And talking about super thick, 200mm on the front of the hull, 230 on the front of the turret. This thing is truly monstrous. But it's not only the front of the vehicle that's great. 130 on the side and 120 at the rear means that even if you end up with vehicles behind like this Cromwell, and the Cromwell's firing premium rounds, he's not doing much to the back of the VK100-01P. Although it looks like the Cromwell has finally found the position to shoot, as he's managed to penetrate 2 shots. And Bartosz right now is finding himself in a 1 versus 5 situation that he quickly reduces to a 1 versus 3 scenario with a couple of kills there. And now, having dealt with the tier 8 medium tank on the enemy team, Bartosz is going to turn his vehicle around, and he has blocked 5,300 damage, but he's down to 86 hit points. A single shell from any of these vehicles is practically going to spell Bartosz's demise, but it looks like that SU-100 might have run out of high explosive rounds now. The T-52 doesn't have any premium rounds to put into the back of Bartosz's tank, and very correctly, Bartosz has now turned his attention towards the Cromwell Berlin, who was spanking all of those 2 rounds into the back of his vehicle. Doesn't look like this T-52 is able to do anything, bouncing off the side again and again and again, and Bartosz is now up to 6,000 damage and 6,000 damage block there with that extra shot from the T-52. But Bartosz is keeping his gun towards the Cromwell, the SU-100. He needs to apply some pressure quickly. Where's the SU-100 gone? Well, we don't need to worry about that for right now, because the Cromwell looks like he actually hits maybe the gun of Bartosz's tank there. We saw 135 damage blocked, although it didn't count at the top. So Bartosz, having vanquished the Cromwell, is now going to turn his gun towards the T-52, who tried to rush him, maybe thinking that he would be able to get behind the VK. But it's not like it's going to matter, buddy. You were shooting the back of his tank again and again and again with no hope of being able to go through it. Well, maybe just auto-aiming at the side and having no luck. But where has this SU-100 gone? Oh dear. Oh dear. This is not where you want to be. 1 kill away from a Kolobanov's medal, and Bartosz fluffs the shot into the track. The SU-100 does the same, firing into Bartosz's tracks, but now with the SU-100 incapacitated, Bartosz pushes forwards, makes his tank a tricky target, makes it awkward for the SU to be able to shoot the top of his vehicle, and secures a monster carry with 9 kills. And another thing that Bartosz is probably exceedingly happy about is that he completes Block 13 mission, the Collector, for his Chimera by destroying 6 enemy vehicles of 2 different types and also winning the battle and staying alive just. So this was an ace tanker, and boy, what an ace tanker. 2,108 base experience points. You know what? If that had been the result with the premium account, that would have probably still been an ace tanker. Outrageous performance here for the VK100-01. He also gets a Radley Walters medal for those 9 kills, and the one that everybody wants, the Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against at least 5 opponents, a Spartan's medal for ricocheting with less than 10% of your hit points remaining, a cool-headed medal. That's actually quite an unusual one to get a high tier, because you have to ricochet at least 10 rounds in a row, and that doesn't usually happen once you start to reach tier 8 and everybody has large caliber guns. Talking about large caliber guns, Bartosz picks up a high caliber in addition to a steel wall medal, and this was a monstrous steel wall, 6,500. That's enough to kill the vehicle 4 or 5 times over. And it's definitely games like these, albeit with nice matchmaking, that do show you that the German super heavy line truly starts at tier 8. And it's almost insanity to even consider that the vehicle before this one is the Tiger P. If I was grinding this for the first time now, I'd probably think that this is one of the best tanks to get your hand on after suffering through that horrible excuse for a tank. Anyway, Bartosz, congratulations to you on a fantastic game and also smashing your mission. Thank you so much for uploading your replay to the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I certainly did, and I hope all of you out there did as well. If you did, please consider giving this video a like, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, I'm live right now on Twitch, and I'm about to answer one of my most frequently asked questions. What are your favorite tanks in World of Tanks? I'm going to stream my personal favorite vehicles, starting from tier 1 and ending up at tier 10. In addition to giving honorable mentions, maybe I'll show a few gems that you didn't even consider. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.